Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Second Son Woodworks. Today I'm going to be showing you how I did a pretty simple refurbish to this old canoe. I installed some new poplar seats and gave it a fresh coat of paint. Let's get started. As you can tell, this canoe was in need of some love. This canoe is kind of a communal canoe amongst some friends of mine, and I was recently included in the little co-op of canoe usage, and so I decided to give this canoe a little facelift. First thing first, I wanted to sand it all down and get off any big chunks of fiberglass and dirt. After that, I use my Ryobi gas-powered blower to blow off all the excess dust and whatnot to get it ready for a good spray painting. Then I use some painter's tape to trim off the top edge of the canoe. I picked up a bottle of Ace Hardware's version of Rust-Oleum called Rust Stop. It's supposed to be super water resistant and it adheres to fiberglass. I had to do a few coats of this, but overall it turns out pretty awesome. Many of you have probably already noticed that I'm not using music in this video compared to the rest of my videos thus far. I'm going to give it a try. I've had some comments from people saying that the music is super distracting, so I'm going to give this a try without the music. So if you could leave a comment below with your opinion as to whether or not you like the music or if you don't like the music, that'd be super helpful because I want these videos to be helpful for you and not to be distracting. But if the music's helpful, if it kind of makes you interested, then that's great too. So just let me know. After letting the paint dry, I went ahead and removed all the painter's tape. There was only one of the seats left in the canoe, or at least attached to the canoe. The other two had been broken out, so I went ahead and removed this seat, and then I used the size of the seat to, later on you'll see that I use it to measure the size of the seat that I will be building out of some new wood. I also had to detach all of the excess hardware from the last seats because they were just ripped out of there. They hadn't actually been properly taken out. After that, I took some rough measurements and used the old bench to kind of edge out the size of the first seat, and then I started cutting everything down to size with my circular saw. As you can see, I did two seats the same size, but if I was to do it again, I would have done the front seat a little bit longer so that it could span closer to the center of the canoe as opposed to the same position as the back seat, so that somebody could sit on the front seat and still face forward and it wouldn't be too close to the front of the boat. I then used my table saw to cut down a couple pieces of poplar that would serve as support beams for the benches. I originally had intended to do a support beam for each of the benches, but in the end it only turned out that the middle one needed it, as that is the longest one. And then I used the table saw to bevel out a section on each side of the base of the support beam that would sit inside the little groove that is at the base of the canoe. And you'll see more of what I mean in just a second. I then use my chisel to break away the excess wood. After that, I took over all the pieces of poplar to the joiner to smoothen up the edges that would be exposed. Then I ran everything through my planer. For those of you who don't have a planer, you can totally use a sander for this section of the project. It'll just take a bit more time. When I use my joiner, my planer, and my table saw, I also use my dust collector, as you can see in the back right hand corner of the frame. And the most frustrating thing about this is that it always trips my breaker. I don't have the best power out to my shop right now. I've looked at getting more power, but it's just super expensive. One day I will do it, but right now I haven't been able to do it. So if you can relate to that, you should let me know, because we can be frustrated over this together, because it's super annoying. See, what did I tell you? It totally is doing it all the time. The thing that I've learned, if you do have this issue, is to really take it slow when you're moving the blades of the planer down. Same goes for if you're cutting stuff on the table saw. You can adjust the height of your saw blade and do multiple cuts so that it doesn't trip the breaker. After that, I went ahead and took each of those pieces and routed off the sides that would be facing out in the canoe with a 1/4 round bit. Kind of gives it a nice smooth edge, so that it's not super sharp, because your legs are going to be close to these pieces of wood. After that, I took one of the first pieces out and kind of squeezed it in, see if it would fit, and as you can see, it didn't completely fit, which is kind of normal, because the fact that this is a big plexiglass canoe, it's not the most expensive of canoes, and it flexes a lot. You got to find the right place to be able to place your seat. So what I did is I kind of felt around, and then I went back in my shop and cut it down to the right size. Once I got it into the right spot, I went ahead and took some long construction screws and screwed right through the old holes that had been drilled out on the side of the canoe to attach this new seat. These screws that I use, I think, are about 3 inches long, so you want to use something that's going to have a lot of support, because you're going to be sitting on these end seats and they're not going to have supports. That's one of the things I decided to do, is to not put supports on the end seats, because they have enough strength just in the piece of wood and the screws to not do that. So, and then as you can see here, I took the middle seat and kind of felt out where it needed to be. Somehow I was completely off on the height of the support beam that goes underneath the seat, And so what I had to do is I had to attach the seat where I wanted it, where the old holes were, and then I kind of took the piece of the support beam and had to kind of measure out to where it was going to go. And it ended up that I had another piece left around that kind of fit, but it didn't fit completely, so I took one of them in the shop, cut it down, and then used that. And then I did some pocket holes on the top of the top of the bench, and then screwed some screws in there. And I didn't use glue because I figured I might need to take this out at some point, and maybe not, but I wanted to have the option. So. After that, I took all the seats out that I had placed in and fitted correctly, and I set them out in my lawn, and I got a bottle of spray polyurethane, and I went ahead and coated everything with a few coats of this polyurethane to kind of seal it up. This is just a poplar wood. It's not a super high quality hardwood, but it's something that I had laying around in my shop, and so I wanted to kind of seal it up a little bit so that when I am out on the river, it doesn't rot the wood really quickly. So as you can see here, I'm just using this Minwax spray polyurethane. It's the oil-based stuff, and I just gave it a few coats and sealed it up nice. Worked pretty well. Once I let the polyurethane dry on the pieces of wood, I went ahead and took them back to the canoe and reattached them in their positions. And this is pretty much the last step, which is awesome because it didn't take a lot of time, and in the end I have a boat that I can go out on the Missouri River and float with my friends, which is the best thing to do on a hot summer Montana day. So I am super stoked. Thanks for watching.